Welcome to T-Reader. This is the second video tutorial in the series How to Get Started with T-Reader, and it focuses on comfortable reading. Here we'll talk about the reading mode, including the tools for ebook navigating, working with the context menu, managing bookmarks and annotations, and about setting up styles, formats, color themes and overlays also. And now a bit boring theory on the ebook formats features. Without this, it's impossible to understand the features of the work of any ebook reader. There are two main formats in ebook editions: reflowable, also known as the standard layout, and fixed layout or print replica. Briefly, a reflowable ebook can't replicate your print edition design. This can be supported by fixed layout ebooks only. In case of a reflowable format, the reader creates an ebook layout each time in a new way, in accordance with the specified layout settings and screen size and orientation of your device. If the font of the book is too small for you, you can always enlarge it. You can also change line spacing, margins, indents and so on. In all these cases, the layout of the book will change, and you should be prepared for the fact that the position of some illustrations, relative to the other illustrations and text, will also change, which isn't always convenient. In the case of a fixed format, a reader always displays an ebook in the original layout as it was created by the publisher. The layout options aren't available, and the format menu looks completely different. So in this case, you can't, for example, enlarge the text or change the line spacing, but here you can effectively use zoom and pan tools. And in all cases, both the pictures and the text remain in their places, as originally conceived by the publisher. A little later, we'll take a closer look at the layout options, as well as zoom and pan tools. The second feature of ebooks you need to know about is that some ebooks can have images of pages with text, but not the text itself. This situation occurs if the ebook contains just scanned copies of the pages of the original book. This occurs most often in fixed format ebooks and causes the most confusion in PDF and déjà vu formats. This is due to the fact that unlike comics and photo albums that contain only images, the ebook format specifications allow the simultaneous presence of image and text layers in one page. Any combinations of these layers are possible. For example, image only, text only, image combined with text. One important conclusion can be drawn from all this: in ebooks, on pages that do not have a text layer, the context menu functions related to text processing will not work. In case of PDF or déjà vu documents, only the graphic annotation functions will work. To illustrate this point, we have deliberately added another file to the ebook samples, which looks absolutely identical to this one. The first file contains basically only text, the second contains only page images. In the first file, you can open both a text and graphic context menu, depending on the area of the page where you activated the menu. In the second file there is no text layer, but only a text image, and therefore here, you can activate only the graphic context menu. A little later, we'll take a closer look at the context menu options. And finally, the last but not least, the ebooks feature is that the EPUB and PDF format standards allow to create ebooks with built-in multimedia content. That is, with built-in video, sound and interactive elements.
If I were looking for the White Rabbit, I'd ask the Mad Hatter.
I'm late for a very important date.
T-Reader supports ebooks in EPUB format with built-in multimedia. Armed with theoretical knowledge about the ebook formats features, let's move on to the T-Reader reading mode. So you can open an ebook and go into reading mode in several ways. By tap to the desired ebook in the library, or, as the second option, via info panel by tapping the read button. To close ebook and return to the library, use back button. T-Reader for iPad, unlike version for iPhone, has tab bar. Using the tab bar, you can switch between open ebooks. The ebook tab on the tab bar can have three colors. Red, if the ebook is in reading mode now. Black, if the ebook is in the device memory and you can quickly switch to it. Gray, if the ebook isn't in the device memory and to read it, the app needs to load it into memory. In this case, the switching won't happen instantly, but at first there will appear content loader icon. And in case of a reflowable format ebook, a layout progress icon appear. The screen in the full screen reading mode is divided into three zones. Tap zones 1 or 3 to navigate to the previous or next page. Tap zone 2 to open reading interface. You can also swipe left or right anywhere on the screen to navigate the book. When the reading interface is open, you can customize the reading mode or navigate through the book and control the sync. Swipe up or down in the document field to adjust the brightness. Let's consider the tools that are placed on the nav bar. The first one is Scrollbar. It helps you quickly navigate through the pages of the book. Hold the red dot of the scrollbar and drag it to the left or right until you see the desired page number. The page counter shows the current page numbers and the total number of pages in the book. Tap to the page counter to direct jump to the desired page. The left and right sides of the nav bar have buttons of the history of your navigation between pages. And you can always move forward or backward through the history of your page navigation. In the bottom left corner of the nav bar is the Page Sync button. If you read the same book on several of your devices, you can always go to the last page read. The Page Sync dialog displays a list of all your devices on which this book was opened. Each item in this list contains device name, the date and time the book was last opened on this device, page number, progress bar and percentage of the read. Select desired option to jump. Data for Page Sync is stored in your iCloud. So to sync the pages, you need to properly connect your device to iCloud. In addition, for fixed format books, in the lower right corner, there is a button to show or hide filmstrip. So in such books, you can additionally navigate the book using filmstrip by scroll it to the left or right and by tap to the desired thumbnail. Let's continue to consider ways to navigate the book. The element that we'll look at is the button on the toolbar that opens the right sidebar with 4 tabs: Contents, Bookmarks, Annotations and Search. As we already know from our brief theoretical course on the eBooks formats features, some books may not have a text layer and therefore search by the text mask won't work there. In addition, a search by the text mask is also not possible for audiobooks. In audiobooks, you can't also create annotations, but only bookmarks, into which you can write down your comments to certain audiobook timestamps. The Content tab may be missing or empty if the ebook doesn't contain a table of contents at all. The Bookmarks and Notes tabs works in the same way as they work in the library. We have already discussed it in the chapter 6 of first part of the tutorial, How to Get Started. In reading mode, there is only one difference with library mode. Navigation on bookmarks and annotations is performed within the current book and not across all books of the library. Text search and color mask functions are also relevant here. And here you can also delete or edit individual items. The search function, if available, allows you to search by text mask. The search process can always be interrupted with the stop button. You can clear the search results by tapping the clear button. In this case, the search results window displays the search history. You can clear the search history by tapping the clear button again. In all formats of books, including audiobooks, comics and photo albums, you can create bookmarks. Tap the bookmark icon to create a bookmark. In the open window, you can change the color of the bookmark and edit its text. By default, a bookmark creation timestamp is recorded to the text field. The clear button clears the text field. To save bookmark, tap the save button. To cancel, tap outside the dialog. T-Reader allows you to create multiple bookmarks on one page. Therefore, when you tap on an existing bookmark, a window opens that displays all the bookmarks on this page. In this window, you can also create new bookmarks on the current page by tap to the plus button. Edit or delete them by swipe to the left. The current page displays the color of the topmost bookmark. To call the context menu, hold on the desired area of the screen in full screen mode. The context menu depends on the ebook format, reflowable or fixed, and the page area where you activate this menu. Context menu on pages of reflowable format can be called only for text areas. Copy option, copies an excerpt. And later you can paste it in any app that works with a text lookup option brings up the iOS built-in dictionary, which allows you to quickly find the definition or translation of words on your iPhone or iPad, even if the internet connection isn't available. So, the dictionary is accessible through the lookup option. Share option brings up iOS sharing menu. The share system in iOS allows you to send something from the app you're currently using to another app. Wikipedia option calls the Wikipedia window with the selected word or phrase. To go back to T-Reader, tap this button. Highlight option is used to highlight the selected text area by default color. To change the color or other properties of the highlighted text, tap again on the desired item. The new selected color becomes the default color for highlight and note. It should be noted here that both the highlight and note options in T-Reader are processed almost identically. In both cases, the timestamp is automatically recorded in the note field. The only difference is that in the case of note the properties window is called immediately. So, all that we'll now talk about the highlight option is valid with respect to the note context menu option. In the dialog that is associated with the options highlight and note, the following actions are available. You can delete a highlighted or noted by tapping on the delete button. You can change the color of these items. You can edit the contents of the note field or clear it. To cancel all changes, tap outside the dialog. To save all changes, tap the Save button. Search option is used to search for the selected text in the current document. The context menu for fixed format will vary depending on the page area on which your finger is held. If you held on the text and the current page contains a text layer, the context menu will be similar to the reflowable format. If the current page doesn't contain a text layer or you held outside the text area, the context menu will look different. And in this case, you can create only a graphical annotation in the form of a rectangular area. You can edit this area using special buttons or move this entire area. After you have selected the position and size of this area, you can select the type of the area as highlight or note. If you select highlight, the dialog is closed and a current timestamp is recorded in the note field of the new item. If you select the note option, a familiar dialog will open to change the properties of the new item. The only difference between the dialog for changing the properties of graphical annotations and the dialog for the text annotations discussed earlier is a special button that allows you to edit the size and position of this item. Tap to open the properties window for the graphic annotation. Hold on the graphic annotation to resize and reposition it. To create a new item or save the results of editing an existing item, here, as in the case of text annotations, tap the Save button. To cancel all changes, tap outside the dialog. Because of the ebook formats features that we covered in Chapter 1, the zoom modes also work differently in books of reflowable and fixed formats. Let's consider a reflowable format. To activate the zoom mode, double-tap anywhere on the screen in full screen mode. The zoom mode window opens, and here you can zoom and pan the image by pinch, spread, and pan gestures. Double-tap anywhere on the screen to return to normal zooming. To close the zoom window and return to full screen mode, tap the Close button. And now let's look at a fixed format. For the reasons that we discussed in Chapter 1, zoom and pan operations for these formats work differently than for reflowable formats. Zoom and pan operations here applies to the entire book, but not to the current screen in the separate window, as in the case of reflowable formats. For fixed formats, T-Reader uses zoom lock technology, which allows you to navigate between pages without setting the zoom for each page separately. Let's see how it works. Zoom and pan in full screen mode to set an acceptable page view. T-Reader automatically lock the current zoom for the entire book. Pan through the current page while reading. And as we can see, panning works only within the boundaries of the current page. If you want to go to another page, then you need to move to the left or right edge of the current page. You can do it with the pan gesture, or as in the case of normal navigation between pages, you can also do it by swiping in the desired direction or by tapping to the left or right edge of the screen. After that, repeat the gesture of the navigation to another page, that is, swipe in the desired direction or tap on the edge of the screen. The top left corner of the next page will be displayed if you move to the right. And correspondingly, the bottom right corner of the previous page will appear if you move to the left. To return to full screen mode, use double tap or pinch. T-Reader has the screen rotation lock function for the reading mode, which is activated by this button. In this case, the screen rotation in the library mode isn't locked. If you need to lock the screen rotation in both reading mode and library mode, use the rotation lock from the iOS Control Center. The View menu is used to manage common brightness of the screen, color overlays, and color themes. In addition, here is the Switch Image Night mode, which converts all images in the book into black and white and inverts for more convenient reading at night. This is an example of processing a black and white image in reflowable ebook in day mode. Night color theme with Image Night mode disabled. In this chapter we are only discussing the View menu, so we left the user interface in day mode. In Chapter 11, we'll look at how to switch day-night mode for the color theme and user interface at the same time. Night color theme with Image Night mode enabled. And this is an example of processing a color image. Night color theme with Image Night mode disabled. Night color theme with Image Night mode enabled. Now let's see how it works for fixed formats. Black and white image. Image Night mode disabled. Image Night mode enabled. Color image. Image Night mode disabled. Image Night mode enabled. The color overlay can be imagined as a colored glass that overlays the pages, and therefore this tool can be applied to all ebook formats. By default, the color overlay is off. In the Color Overlays section, you can choose one of 3 customizable presets. To customize a particular preset, tap the More button. In the Color Overlay editing menu, you can change the name of the overlay and change the opacity and color. To cancel the changes made, tap Cancel or tap Save to save them. You can always reset all these 3 presets to the factory default. Color Themes tool, unlike color overlays, is available only for ebooks of reflowable formats. Here is a PDF file as an example of a fixed format document. And here, as we can see, the Color Themes section isn't available. Color Themes section includes 4 presets and the Publisher Colors option, which disables the color theme correction by the app and leaves the ebook colors as the publisher planned them. In the overwhelming majority of cases, publishers of ebooks of reflowable format don't bother to create a color theme of the publication. So to improve the visual perception of the ebook, T-Reader activates black and white theme by default for day mode and night theme by default for night mode. If you want to see how the publisher's color theme looks in the ebook, you can always turn off the forced theme correction by selecting the Publisher Colors option. To customize the color theme, as in the case of color overlays, tap the More button. Here you can rename the color theme and configure the headings color, the body text color, and the background color. The color settings for headings and body text here are similar to the settings in color overlays. That is, you can set the color using the palette and list tabs in the color section. To set the background color, besides the palette and list tabs, there's an additional texture tab. In each color theme, each of these elements can be disabled. If you disable the headings color, the body text color will be used instead. If you disable the body text color or background color, the publisher's colors will be used for these elements. To cancel the changes made, tap Cancel or tap Save to save them. In conclusion, it's important to emphasize 3 points. First, color themes and color overlays can be chosen independently. Second, color overlays are superimposed over color themes. Third, the color theme and overlay you selected in the day mode becomes the default theme and overlay for the day mode. And respectively, the color theme and overlay you choose in the night mode becomes the default theme and overlay for the night mode. The Format menu is used to manage the layout of pages for all document formats and style settings for ebooks of reflowable formats. For fixed format documents, only page layout and page scaling options are available here. Page layout options include 1 page view, 2 pages view, 2 pages view with cover as default page layout for fixed formats except comics and photo albums. Adaptive page layout. For fixed formats, it's only available for comics and photo albums and as the default page layout for these formats. Adaptive page layout takes into account the nested folder structure inside comic book files and photo albums, as well as XML files in comic rack format in the root these archives. And use this information to control the order of viewing pages of comics and photo albums. Page scaling options include fit to screen height, fit to screen width, and auto fit. The format menu for reflowable formats looks somewhat different. Here, unlike the fixed formats, the page scaling option isn't available, but there is an option for managing headers and footers. And also, a large section for managing display styles. The header and footer option simply hides or displays headers and footers. By default, this setting is enabled. The publisher style here works similarly to how we discussed in Chapter 9, applied to color themes. That is, if the publisher's style is enabled, then all the style settings are taken from those defined by the publisher in the ebook. If some style properties aren't defined by the publisher, their values are taken from the style section of this menu. For the reasons discussed in Chapter 9, the publisher style is disabled by default. Further, everything is simple, each option controls what is written on it. For text files of TXT format, the publisher style option doesn't make sense, so here encoding setting is used instead. If you somehow change the style settings, then you can save it as a new default style for all new books that will open. It's important to emphasize that all the ebooks that you opened earlier will be open with the style that they had when they were last opened. To set the style of the current book according to the new default style settings, just tap the Reset to Default Style. In the case if you, for example, mistakenly set some style properties and saved it as the default style, then you can always go back to the factory default settings via iOS settings. To return to the factory default of style settings, set this switch to on and restart the app. In the library or reading mode, you can always select day or night mode with this button. In the library, changing the day-night mode changes the interface colors. In the reading mode, in addition to the interface colors, a customizable theme of the ebook is automatically selected. In the night mode, the color theme that was previously set by you in the night mode is automatically selected. By default, this is the night color theme. Similarly, in day mode, the color theme that was previously set by you in day mode is automatically selected. By default, this is the theme black and white. More detailed information you can find on our website, treader.com.